We're joined right now live in studio by Salt Lake County Sheriff Jim Winder and Salt Lake City Police Chief Mike Brown. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Sheriff, let me start with you. First of all, what's your thought? What's going through your mind this morning after, of course, what happened in Dallas last night?
Well, that's a great question, and I wish I could be definitive because I think all of us are. I'm just confused. I'm really angry. I'm very distraught and sorrowful to see what's going on. And I'm confused about the state of our relationships here in the nation. I'm trying to get my equilibrium after seeing a situation like this in a major U.S. city. I really don't know how to answer it.
And you, Chief?
I'm heartbroken. This is terrible. This is a tragedy. It's senseless. It's cowardless. This is a sad situation, and this affects not just the Dallas Police Department. This affects every police officer in this country.
We've heard this morning that police departments all over the country are on high alert. What does that mean?
Well, it's just to be ever vigilant. I mean, to keep your wits about you. Watch for situations and people and things that may be suspicious. There's no intel that would suggest that there's anything like this, but it does sometimes elevate our vigilance.
Sheriff, what does this teach you maybe about reactions to situations like this? I mean, obviously, I would imagine as a police officer, you instantly put yourself in one of those situations and go, man, I'm A, glad I wasn't there, and B, how would I have reacted if something happened like this?
Well, from a tactical perspective, I think as horrific as it is, I think that although having it occur in the downtown area and during a protest like that is certainly unusual and would throw off one, I think the officers acted, as we've all seen, heroically and admirably and very effectively. I don't worry about officers' tactics, to be perfectly honest with you. I think the real question is how would I react in terms of having what I would view as a community that was that hostile towards me. And I can't relate to that necessarily because I don't live in a community with that kind of hostility. I just don't. Mm-hmm. Here in Salt Lake, we're in a different environment. But, a story, and I don't want to belabor it, but a story that I think is very instructive. Immediately after the shootings, a bullet had broken a glass window of a 7-Eleven, and looting began. And now the Dallas police are required to take 30 officers off of the hunt for these two or multiple suspects and place them in a cordon around a business to protect it. The irony to that is very interesting. And during that cordon, they were taunted by their citizens about their fallen officers. Now, just try and wrap your mind around that. So when you ask how I would react, how would I react if I was an officer after having 6 of my comrades dead and 11 shot, and then having individuals dance and taunt while I'm protecting a 6-pack of beer? Mm-hmm. It's something that I'm having difficulty with.
And yet, and I'm so glad, Sheriff, that we do live in a community where people are and have a better relationship with law enforcement. Having said that, though, we've had officers shot at by people who just wanted to shoot a cop. That was their intention, didn't matter who it was. They went out with that sole purpose. So how do we improve that? As we heard the chief in Dallas say, what do we do to heal the relationship between the community and law enforcement so that this, and I'm asking a terrifically big question, and I don't know if either of you, I suppose both might want to comment. Chief, you want to start first?
Absolutely. This is going to be difficult. This is going to take some time to get over. I mean, I have attended several with my officers Black Lives protests that we've had here in Salt Lake. They have never been like that. They have been situations that have been peaceful for the most part. But with that being said, I think we need, as a community, I think we're better here in Salt Lake City. I think policing in the state of Utah, Unified Police Department, Salt Lake City Police Department, we have great officers, very brave, courageous women and men that put their best foot forward every day. And the best foot is going to be that we need to meet with our community. The divisiveness that they talk about, that David Brown talks about, that does have to end. This solves nothing. We need to come together as a community, and those that want to talk, and if we want change, we need to talk about it, because when we talk about it, we get solutions. That's what we saw in Dallas last night does nothing. And I've said earlier, when you're face to face with somebody, it's hard to hate them.
I'm going to get your comment, Sheriff. We just need to break for traffic.
Sure. Before we continue speaking with Salt Lake County Sheriff Jim Winder and Salt Lake City Police Chief Mike Brown, we heard from Chief Brown just a moment ago, Sheriff, about how do you get over this divisiveness? What comes to your mind as to how do we improve this situation?
Well, what struck me was in the question was this the preposition that the divisiveness exists only between the community and police, and I got to tell you, I just disagree with that. Here, in my opinion. The police are a proxy for a broader problem in our community, and that is that we are, for a variety of reasons, the communication that's going on between human beings right now that is viewed as tolerable is outrageous. I mean, people. I'll give you just a subtle example. People who post on Facebook, for instance, a situation about a wedding or something, it quickly digresses into some open discussion about the interfamilial problems, and then they're back and forth calling each other every name in the book and their families, let alone the political discourse that's going on in the country, let alone when a person goes down to speak with a teacher about why their child isn't doing well, and they feel enabled and empowered to say things to a teacher that you and I would have never said ever. Look, to distill this down to police and citizen is naive, and it is, in my opinion, very short-sighted. The cops are a reflection of the broader community, and so to move past this, we gotta start becoming better people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You make such a brilliant point, and I'm so glad to have that thought in my mind. And now I want to know what I do with it. What do I do with it to make sure that you are safer?
Well, safety begins with a social contract, and here's what I mean by this: when our kids are enabled to say and do the things they do, and perpetuate that, even in our own families. Son, I want you to go upstairs and do X. Nope, not doing that, and I'm not going to have any of that and up your ear. Okay, son, think about it. We're perpetuating even within our own universes here. This idea that a house is built, magically. It's built on bricks, and bricks are individual responsibility, individual humanity, love, respect. All these terms that sound like just superfluous. It's a real deal, man. Mm-hmm. And right now we've got a culture that we feel very okay just saying anything we want anytime we want, and then we wonder why we're going down the toilet here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Jim, I agree completely. Trust. We have to have trust. We have to trust our community. The community has to trust us. I'm telling you, the things that we see in the media, those are the outliers. Those are the very small portion. I mean, cops are humans. We make mistakes. Things happen. I'm not excusing their actions, but we, as a law enforcement profession, we hold ourselves accountable like none other. We are accountable, and we value the integrity of our profession.
How do you get the very best people to take that officer oath when it comes to hiring some of these people? Because right now is a very difficult time, I would imagine, for police officers or police agencies to hire the very best of the best. I think what we were saying earlier, we used to have, 10, 15, 20 openings. We would have 600 people who were all lining up hoping to be, and I think those numbers have gone down dramatically. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, they have. I mean, when I hired on, Jim, I think there was almost 3,000 people taking the test for 30 or 40 positions. But it ebbs and flows throughout the years. But I still think that there are women and men out there that are cut from the cloth, that this is a calling. This is the job, no matter what. This is the job they want to do. And like we were talking earlier, what happened last night in Dallas did not affect one bit. Every officer responded to a call in Salt Lake City. Every officer of Jim's went to the call. Nobody shirked their responsibility. Nobody sat back and said, this is a tense, scary situation. They went without question. And so thank goodness there are people out there that want to be part of this noble profession.
Oh, I second that. And so, because it is a little harder to attract those few, is there any issue then, Sheriff, with, give me your thoughts about what you saw in Minneapolis. Let me just ask it in a broad way.
Well, I look, what I saw was, and I don't want to get overly philosophical here, but if you look through a window, you're going to see a particular view. Sometimes you have to take a moment to look around and see what else is out there. And what we have been shown in that video, which is horrific and it is emotional and it's bizarre. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it.
And let me just say, too, that has nothing to do with what happened in Dallas and is not. I mean, I don't want to connect those two.
I would disagree with you. I think that people, the emotions that spurred, probably definitely were in the hearts and minds of these individuals as they pulled those triggers on the officers in Dallas. You can't help but be affected by that. And I think in a way it really did serve to foment some of this. So I don't think they're disconnected. But back to the point, what I felt about it is if you show me one view, and our system is predicated on global review. That's why we have a justice system. That's why we take time to evaluate and gather evidence and look at all of the issues. But yeah, you show me a snapshot, it'll piss me off. But show me the reality from both sides and let me weigh it. We don't weigh anything anymore. We don't take time to take a breath and evaluate. The gentleman, if I may, one other thing, the gentleman that you played the snippet on who was misidentified as a potential shooter last night, he was outraged that he was subjected to that misrepresentation and said, I can't believe they did that. Yet people would see a snippet of a video of an officer-involved shooting and immediately jump to a conclusion. Neither is fair.
That's a good point, Jeff.
Yeah.
I mean, because that is just a small window of what happens.
That's right.
And and we're seeing that now with our body camera. I mean, they want to look at that 8 to 10 seconds of video and make a complete judgment as to why the officers were there, what was going on, everything that led up to that situation and past. And so we are so quick to judge. And
so we just maybe lastly we continually talk about improving relations with the community. What do both of your agencies do to try to make that happen? To try to help people feel comfortable when they're around police officers?
Well, no, go right ahead. No. I think that what you do is what we've done historically, and that is you work through each individual encounter. This idea that it's some blanket training and you say to them, okay, go out there and do this and it solves it. What you do is you encourage your officers to check their emotions, not take the initial hostility personally, to try and evoke their, as Mike says, as Chief Brown says, to get personal with a person in a positive way, because it's a heck of a lot harder, as he said, to hate when you're up close. So you turn it into a personal encounter and you try and bring it back to that point. That's a skill. And so there's no magic solution to this. It's about using your mouth and your heart to overcome bias.
And to that point, to take it just a little further, I think you have to have a little emotional capital in the bank. You have to have been out there with your community. You have to have been engaged with your community, had those conversations, had that interaction, had the good times, and developed that trust. I mean, in the 90s, policing, our cars got better, our radios got better, our technologies got better. But you know what lacked in the 90s? Our trust. We lost trust. We drove by our communities saying, we'll get to the call and we'll tell you what you need to know. That's not policing. Policing is getting out of the car, shaking hands, talking to kids, talking to your church leaders.
Having that human-to-human relationship.
And if you have that, and if you look across the country, the communities that have built the foundation of trust with their communities, they're not having those problems. And I want to say here in Salt Lake City, I'm telling you, we have worked very hard with our community. We've talked and had those hard conversations with people that want change. And we've demonstrated that we're willing to change and willing to listen. And I think that's going to pay huge dividends here.
We know that this kind of thing affects all who serve in blue. And we want to just say how grateful we are for all of the people who work in both of your departments. And we know you must feel what happened last night very, very close to home. And we're sorry for that suffering that must be there. Thank you both for your time.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for the time.
We appreciate it.